Hi, I'm Matt Lyons, and with me is Mr. Scott, head of the history department, and today he is going to break down every history elective that students at Abington High School can take.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the electives that we have in the history department. We're pretty proud of them, so
I can speak from experience, they are pretty great.
good. So the first one I want to talk about today is law. So this is a class that's going to give students a background in mostly criminal law. So it's going to take students through how laws are made, how laws are enforced, and then what happens to people that are either working for the criminal justice system or are being attempted to be rehabilitated by the criminal justice system. So that's the main focus with that class.
Do you know, are there any field trips incorporated in the class?
Yes. So historically, students who take this class have gone to a prison so they can get a tour there to see what that's like. Obviously, this is not a normal year, but in normal years, students typically will get to go on a field trip for the class.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the next elective we have is called Leadership Seminar. And this is an honors level class that students can take who want to learn about essentially the language of leadership. And so this class will focus on we have a book for the class called Above the Line, and it gives lots of different leadership philosophies and strategies for students to learn about and make into their own so they can become better leaders.
So this is a different class than all the other history electives. Why would you advise students to take this class in particular?
Great question. Yeah. So the goal of this class really is to teach students about their own leadership style so that they can give back to the Abington community as well as be strong leaders after school as well.
Thank you.
You got it, yeah. The next class that we offer is a class called State of the Union. This is a class that is typically offered for seniors only, and it's a class really, essentially the goal of the course is media literacy, and it's intended to teach students to be mindful consumers of the news and current events.
Is there a reason that this class is offered to seniors, like specifically seniors?
Yeah, so it was designed as a class that was for students that had a good amount of high school experience and were looking to make like the transition into the kind of analytical thought that they're going to see in college classrooms after high school.
Sure. So next up is psychology. So what are some of the areas that students might be focusing on career-wise that they should take psychology as a course?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the most common careers that we'll see people that want to get into psychology, so education is very common. We'll see people that want to get into forms of offering therapy or becoming psychologists themselves. A lot of times any job really that deals with human interaction and human facing jobs are going to benefit from learning the skills that we have in psychology. Some of the main skills are, how the human brain develops and, why we make the decisions and the development that happens over time. And so that's probably the biggest goal with that class.
Yeah, I think a lot of students, they feel that psychology class is only for psychologists, but it can be applied to such a wide variety of careers.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a very common misconception. So I'm glad to bring that up and hopefully dispel that fear. It's not just for people interested in psychology, for sure, or the field of psychology.
So next up, we have History versus Hollywood. This is a class I always wanted to take. Unfortunately, I was not able to. So how does this class work? Is it just that you watch movies, or is there more to it?
No, so you don't just sit there and watch movies all day long. You obviously have to watch movies to take the class. So some of the class is certainly watching classic movies that depict history. But a big part of the class is really about analyzing the events and how well the movies depict the history. So it is a history class, and the goal is to compare what we know actually happened in these events to how the movie does. And so I think a misconception about the class is that you're just going to sit there and watch movies all day long. It's not quite that easy. There's a good bit of writing and reflection on the material itself. So you do watch movies, and you certainly can't study it without watching movies, but it's more so about the analysis of the history behind it as well, and the decision-making process for the filmmakers. The last elective we offer is a class called Holocaust and Human Behavior. This class covers the events that lead up to and include the Holocaust itself. And really, it intends to try to get at the questions of like why and how the Holocaust happened, and the broader impact of what this meant for Europe and for the Jewish community in the world in general.
So why would a student want to take this class? What's special about this class?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a class that's really going to get into how have these types of events, so it's not just going to cover the Holocaust, but how have events like the Holocaust and the Holocaust itself, how has that been allowed to happen? How has this kind of thing developed? And, obviously with the goal of preventing things like this from happening or being part of anybody's global future. So that's really the goal with the class, is to learn about why these events have happened and what conditions allowed for them to come into place.
Thank you so much for breaking down all these courses. They are incredible classes offered here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to working with as many students as we can in the future.